Outstanding. Everybody hear me okay?
I could hear you, Bill.
Good. Thank you, Dave. Let's see if I can get my slides ready to go. Sure.
For those interested, I put the FRN presentation that I did in chat. You can see the slides that I did for chat. Thank you, Bill.
Okay. You guys see the first slide all right?
Yep.
Marvelous. Here we go then. I'm Bill, November 6th, November Bravo, November. I wander all over the Seattle area doing radio stuff and thoroughly enjoy it. And thanks for having me tonight to talk a little bit about this thing that I really like called Winlink. It is essentially email over radio, and it's used all over the world. So some of the things we're going to talk about are the purpose of it, the pros and cons, basic equipment needed, typical uses for drills and exercises, typical use in real emergencies. And I tend to use it almost daily all over the place since I seem to be living and breathing it. Very useful. The more I use it, the better I get at it. We're coming to you tonight from the Seattle Red Cross because at the end of our presentation, I'm going to actually connect to a Winlink station on the radio, and you get to watch me do it and see how it works. You can even send messages to me from your email devices, and I can send messages to you from my radio device, and which you'll see how the Winlink system works. Winlink system, a worldwide, robust, resilient email over radio system and network for amateur radio licensees. If you have any kind of amateur radio license, you can use Winlink. It's also used by open water mariners, a parallel system called SailMail, and the US government has it as a backup system called Shares HF. It also uses both voice and Winlink. Here's my attempt at a graphic to show kind of how my station at the bottom of the picture would connect with a gateway somewhere. Could be short range using VHF or UHF. It could be a much longer distance over HF frequencies, commonly called shortwave. What is Winlink good for? Sending and receiving email and small attachments using amateur radio frequencies and tools. When normal systems aren't working, it's really handy. It's one of the few ways that hams can actually communicate with non-hams. We can send to from anyone with an email address. There are some spam and other filters set up so it makes it difficult for somebody to send a ham message if we don't want them to. Winlink is heavily used in emergency communications, planning and exercises, and real-world situations. Winlink can be used locally by connecting with relatively nearby gateways on VHF and UHF frequencies. Winlink can also be used over HF, shortwave frequencies, over much greater distances. Winlink can also connect with any other kinds of communication system. We can use Starlink, HughesNet, other satellite internet providers. If we can get a connection we can get the messages through. There's no cost to using Winlink. You do register your copy when you first get your Winlink Express running. Very inexpensive. Support an amazing network of volunteers that build and maintain this system that we get to use. Also, there's a thing we won't get into tonight, but peer-to-peer Winlink means you don't use the internet at all. You do strictly operator to operator over radio frequencies. And that's an amazingly useful thing also, because it requires no infrastructure. And as I said, communicating with non-hams. And what is it not good for? You cannot surf the web. It's not an internet service. It's just an email service. You cannot send or receive large files or images like we'd be used to doing with our Comcast or CenturyLink or whatever connections, because it's much slower over the radio. You cannot do any business using the Winlink system because we're using amateur radio frequencies and amateur licenses. We have to follow the rules. No encryption is allowed. The messages have to be in the clear. And if it's an urgent message, you don't want to send an email. You want to connect some other way. So it's not the best thing for urgent traffic. How would it be used typically? And I've lost the top of my page. Requests for non-urgent information. Requests for supplies. The incident command system is used all over the world. And there's a number of forms built into Winlink that let us fill out and send form-based information easily and quickly, even if all we have is a radio connection. Typical use, a status report. Don't tie up a voice channel, send an email. Instructions coming from an emergency operations center going out to field stations. It's another good use. That way you've got a copy on a computer. It can even be printed out. We've got a perfect copy, no errors. This is something I've been working on a lot lately. We've got a group here in Seattle doing an I Am Okay program. It's going to be in QST magazine in a few months. The idea of hams helping folks get messages to out of area relatives when nothing else is working. This is a great use for Winlink. Also, this kind of non-emergency traffic staffing information, sending in lists of personnel, because all of that's got to be documented. We got to keep track of people. Also, it is possible to send small photographs. So that means we could save the fire department from having to go do what's called a windshield survey, touring our neighborhood, looking for problems, sending in reports, maybe even with accompanying photographs. So we free up the fire department to do what they do best. These are some things that make Winlink more useful than voice messaging. Complex, detailed information that needs to arrive accurately. A list of medications that your hospital needs. A list of supplies. A list of personnel, names and phone numbers. Reading all of that over the air takes a long time, and errors can be introduced. Also, information that you know is going to be stuffed into a database somewhere. The Seattle Emergency Operations Center uses something called Web EOC. Everything that's going on gets logged in there. That's probably where a lot of our messages are going to go. The field is reporting to Incident Command. Incident Command is putting it into Web EOC. Bulletins that are being sent out from, let's say, the city of Seattle to hubs or community shelters, getting those bulletins out, they get out accurately and can be sent out without tying up voice channels. Non-urgent information, spreadsheets, documents for distribution to the public, photographs. So How does a Winlink message work? How does this thing go? Well, like many email programs, it comes up with a blank message form. You create a new message and you compose it in this program called Winlink Express, runs on Windows. So here's a typical message. I'm sending it to the call sign of the local Red Cross headquarters in Seattle, copying it to my normal email. So I'll have a permanent copy. And just like any regular email, you put a subject in, put some messages in, and then you click post to outbox at the top left corner of that message form. That gets it ready to be sent. Unlike our typical internet email where it just goes, this is much more like the old-fashioned dial-up internet. You have to wait until you have a connection, and then the messages get sent. So there's my message ready to go in what's called the outbox. It's not going yet because I have not connected by radio to the place that it needs to connect with, a gateway. So this is what a gateway session would look like. Here's me at the bottom left with a computer and a radio and an antenna. And I'm connecting to another station by radio that understands what a Winlink message is. That's what we call a gateway. That gateway generally has an internet connection. Some gateways also have backup over HF. If they can't reach the internet, they will send their messages any way they can. And then up in the upper right, you see a stack of computer stuff. That's the back end. That's actually at Amazon Web Services, what they call AWS. They are the server system that Winlink uses, just like any email system has to have some servers someplace where the messages are stored and forwarded. No, there's a bigger picture of the server. It's kind of like the old dial-up days, as I was saying. The messages only get sent and received while you're connected. You're connected generally for only a few minutes. Not like our normal, always on cell phone internet or computer internet. It just takes me back to my modem days. I remember them very well. We're just doing it over radio. We've got two computers talking to each other, but instead of over a phone line, they are connecting over a radio. So just like over a phone, we're converting data to audio and audio back to data. You won't be notified if there's any messages for you until you connect. So part of learning Winlink is to get in the habit of connecting once in a while, especially during an event. How's the best way to learn the Winlink system? Recommendations. You got a Windows computer and you have a ham license. You install Winlink Express on your computer and don't even worry about connecting it to a radio. There's a system built in called Telnet, which will use your internet connection directly so you can get to know the program without dealing with the complexities of connecting it to your radio. And there's a lot going on in the program, so this is worth doing. Then we'll work on getting you connected with a radio and a sound device that goes between the computer and the radio. Then you're really doing Winlink. You're doing it over the air. And that's an extremely useful and fun tool. We've got VHF and UHF gateways all over the Seattle area. Many still run the older packet system. It's been around for decades. And then there's a new system. It's only been around for about 4 or 5 years called VARA FM. That's 10 to 20 times faster than packet. And we've got a pretty good selection of those around too. And Winlink can work with both. I'm going to check the chat box real quick here. I see there's 3 somethings in there. I see Dave Wickert, FRN. Okay, doesn't look good. Anybody have a question? I've been kind of cruising quickly through this. No, not hearing. Okay. And then practicing. It's not just good enough that you get on and send a couple messages and go, oh, okay, I got this figured out. There's a number of groups that have regular weekly and periodic practices to get you doing Winlink on a regular basis, so it becomes something that you're comfortable with. We've got Winlink Wednesdays, Winlink Thursdays. They're just coming back online. The MCOM group, MCOM ETO, MCOM Training Organization, they just got their 501c3, so they're getting organized, and they're going to have a Winlink Thursday coming up in April. Also, there's an Alberta Winlink Wednesdays, and you don't have to be able to connect to them by radio. You just send them Winlink messages through whatever Winlink gateways you can reach. It's definitely different than voice traffic. And by the way, I'll send you a link to this slide deck, so you don't have to worry about writing any of this down. Idaho also has a Winlink Wednesday. It doesn't matter where you live. You can participate in any of these. Good to practice Winlink messages with your team if you're in a club or on an MCOM, like an Aries or a Races team. Many of them have voice nets every week. Most of them also encourage their members to send Winlink messages every week, just to keep going, keep their skills up. If you talk to other hams, ask them if they're on Winlink. Just like when we were first learning email, we started asking people, hey, do you have an email address? Not all hams have Winlink addresses, but any ham can have one. And it's a lot more fun when you got people to connect with. Use Winlink in your events, drills, and exercises. Put it to work. The state of Washington has statewide fifth Saturday drills, roughly 4 times a year. There's one coming up at the end of April. They use Winlink absolutely for those, among other systems. You're welcome to Winlink to me anytime, N6NBN. It's my address. More resources, wavetalkers.com. They've got a lot of great free videos on aspects of Winlink and other things in radio. Winlink.org, that's kind of our home base. Lots of material, a knowledge base they call the Book of Knowledge. There's a wiki page at the PSRG website that has some good beginning stuff for Winlink folks, including some slide decks. CodemAcademy.org has a number of their presentations on a number of subjects, including Winlink. At the MCOM Training.org website, they have a playbook. It's kind of a Winlink proficiency exercise. If your team wants to really get going, this is a good place to start. KM6ZPO has Winlink workshops at their website. ARRL of Eastern Massachusetts has got some Winlink stuff. Okay, briefly, some with the equipment that you would need to connect a computer for VHF or UHF Winlink. This is one of my Go kits, my first attempt. It's not very pretty, but it's got both a voice radio, the one on the left, the dual band voice radio, and then there's a control head on the right for a second radio, Yaesu quad band mobile. And that's the one I tend to use for Winlink. So I can be doing voice traffic and digital traffic at the same time on different frequencies. So we've got a computer on the left and a radio box on the right. A little bit of a close-up of the Go kit. It's at a Linko dual band on the left and a Yaesu 8900 on the right. The little blue box is what's called a sound card. That's from a company called Masters Communications. That's what's connected between the radio and the computer. It knows how to tell a radio when to transmit, and it also knows how to make the sounds out of data that will move data across a radio stream. And here's even more blown up, showing the various components. You don't see the antenna, but there is an antenna connected to both of the radios. So there's a list of the equipment: the Yaesu 8900, Masters Communications DRA36 sound card, and a laptop just running any version of Windows. And then I've got it plugged into a AGM sealed lead acid battery. They're very inexpensive, like $60 on Amazon with free shipping. They go for weeks, lots of power. Got a mag mount antenna that I use with the setup. Or if I know I'm going to need more antenna, I'll use a J-pole, stick it on a tripod. Most times you can hit the gateways pretty easily, though. Again, reviewing the equipment, more of a diagram here. This would be a setup that could work with either packet or VAR FM. So you need an antenna, a battery, a laptop, a sound card, and a radio. Ideally, you want a radio that's got a data connection on the back of it, meaning you're going directly into the radio. You don't need to remove the microphone or bypass the speaker. And that's actually the best way to do it. Same setup, besides the DRA cards, you can also use a signal link. They've been around for a number of years. Same idea. It's a sound card external to your computer, but your computer can talk to it. And it also knows how to tell a radio when to transmit. The little PTT light comes on the signal link, showing you that it's telling the radio it's time to transmit. There's a close-up of the Yaesu 8900. And a close-up of the signal link. And the back of a signal link. The radio jack, they call that an RJ45, it's similar to an Ethernet jack. That would be a cable that connects to your radio. And then on the right, the USB, just like you'd have on the back of a printer, just a standard USB cable goes between the signal link and your computer, so the computer can use the signal link. This is what a Masters Communications DRA card looks like. This is a little bit bigger than its actual size, probably about 1.5 times the size. And one of my batteries. Got lots of these. J-pole folded up on the left side. Actually, you can't see how tall it is. J-pole is a dual band antenna. It doesn't require a ground plane. They're kind of magical, and they're inexpensive, and they're very rugged. You stick one of these on a tripod. I even had one bungee corded to a cardboard box on the hood of my truck one time, and I was in a canyon, and it worked incredibly well. I was most impressed with that antenna. Panasonic Toughbooks, I'm a big fan because they have very bright screens, and they're generally waterproof and dustproof and drop proof. And I can be kind of hard on computers. The software is important. Winlink Express by itself doesn't know how to do packet or VARA FM. So you load the appropriate, think of it as an accessory program. You store it on the same computer, and you tell Winlink Express, here's the program that you run if we're doing a packet. If you do VARA, you have it run a different program. Either way, Winlink Express handles the messages, but these accessory programs know how to tell your sound card how to make the right sounds. And then, of course, Winlink Express itself, free download from the winlink.org website. This sound modem is from a gentleman, UZ7HO. I think he's in Hungary, something like that. Very nice gadget. Teaches sound cards how to do packets. You no longer need an expensive TNC. The same sound card that you may already have can do multiple things, including both packet and VAR FM, and even lots of other formats. FL Digi can do a number. And this is what the sound modem program looks like when it's running. And there's some nice websites out there that give you the exact steps to set up your sound modem software and then tell Winlink Express how to use it. Why do you need it? The sound card by itself doesn't have any smarts in it. It's very dumb. It just makes sound and turns sound back into data. But if you run the right software, it makes exactly the right sounds to do what's called AX25 packet. So TNC can be $200 or more. You can get a signal link for about 130, and the DRA cards as cheap as like $70 or $80 if you want to assemble it yourself. Passes data to and from Winlink Express and your radio. Again, it's a sound modem connection box looks like. And we're going to slide past that. And then I'm going to see if I can get Winlink going here. Let's see if there's something in the chat box. Winlink Express on Windows computers only, yes. There are some people that have got it working on a Mac or a Linux machine. That's outside of my experience. There are articles on how to do that. I don't recommend it. If you want to learn Winlink, get a used Windows laptop for 50 bucks. They're all over the place. If you can't find one, email me. I'll help you find one. But it is a Windows program. We recommend that you use Winlink Express because it is so robust, because it has so many built-in form templates. It is the standard. I think there is a movement to see if they can get it working officially on other platforms, but I have no ETA for that. And I will make sure that you guys get this link. This link will bring up this same slide deck on your computer. N6NBN@arrl.net is a good email address for me. Same one I have at QRZ. Thank you for your time and attention. And
Thanks,
give me a
Bill.
couple minutes. Go ahead.
No, thank you. That's great. You say you're going to have a copy of that? So,
Well, if
And
you copy down that link, but I'll also send this to Steve and he can distribute it to all of you. But all you really need is that tiny URL link. And that should give you the same presentation that I just gave to you.
copy that.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for a minute and get my Winlink going. So I've got my laptop connected by USB to a signal link that's connected to an ICOM IC756 Pro 2 HF radio. And let me see if I can tell it that I want to do VAR HF. You guys can see this, right? And you see, might not be able to, let me share the whole screen. I think that works better. Because things are going to pop up that you may not see otherwise. Okay, so you should be seeing, I've got a VARA HF Winlink session window open. There's also the VARA software itself ready to go. And I need to pick a frequency since I'm doing HF. And let's update the radio. Whoop, not, yep, no. Let's do this. We got some pretty nice antennas here on the roof of the Seattle Red Cross. So I'm connected to one on a tower with a rotator, so I can even point it in the right direction. So let's see what 20 meters usually does really well. So let's go down to 14 megahertz. Here's somebody about 542 miles away, bearing 126. So let me crank the antenna around.
URL. Tiny URL.
So normally I could do VHF and UHF from my car. I don't have HF at home. I live in an apartment. So if I want to learn and practice Winlink HF, I use one of either a Seattle ACS radio room or the Red Cross radio room or one of the hospitals that has HF. Okay, so let's go back down to 14 megahertz, which is 20 meters. Let's go find these guys. Lost the one that I was looking at. The station, I don't know what the distance is. We're going to find out. 14111.0. And I'll get you guys some audio so you can hear what's going on. Because Vara sounds really cool. Sounds like two aliens on too much caffeine to me. Okay. Can you guys hear that?
Yes.
Yes.
No, they're not answering. Okay. These guys are great in right at the San Diego Mexican border, XE2BC. They've got a couple of good stations. Same bearing, 63, 14094. It's an interesting one. Not getting in there. Okay, let's try his other one. Might be busy. 18097. That's 17 meters, I think. Okay. Oh, let's go for him. KO0000. He's got a really trippy call sign. North Las Vegas. So I need to turn the antenna slightly, bearing 152, and change to 141410850. Enter. Usually has a pretty good station. Yeah, that's so good. I'm doing very well tonight.
So could it be the path or could it be just that he's busy?
He might be down. I've hit this station numerous times, but he may not be online right now. Let's try one more of his. Also, he might be involved in another conversation on a different frequency, probably scans. 10140.5. That's 30 meters, I think. There we go. We're in. So now you see the dialogue between the two computers. That's 859 miles away. And you might be noticing on the VARA window, there's 4 different squares with green or white dots. The better the quality of the signal, the more dots, the more squares will show up. So you can do more and more simultaneous audio tones to get the best use of the spectrum. This guy's got some really funny comments. Words of wisdom. 9 out of 10 voices in my head tell me I'm crazy. One just hums. Okay, so what we're seeing here is it identified me as N6NBN. Doesn't matter what gateway in the world I connect to. It's going to connect to the back-end database and check for mail for N6NBN. It looks like there's a bunch of it. Some of the things you're seeing on here, if you can see the screen, what it's doing is getting a list of the messages. It hasn't started downloading them. First, it's getting a list of what messages are available. Every message in the system has a unique serial number made up of letters and numbers. Next to that serial number is how many bytes the message takes up. So even before I download it, I can decide if I want to download a message that might be really huge. Maybe I want to do it later over the internet or over a VHF or a UHF connection that is much faster. So again, I'm doing this over HF. The VHF UHF is much faster than the HF. So think of this as worst case Winlink. We are using the poorest possible radio connection, HF frequencies. I'm on 10 megahertz, which is 30 meters. Okay, looks like I had a message that needed to be sent, so it's sent that. The green bar moves left to right for sending. And then as it's receiving messages, you'll see the green bar grow right to left. And one of the things I've done in Winlink is I asked it to give me a list of the messages ahead of time. And they're all small, so I'm going to let it download all of them. You guys don't have to watch the whole thing, but I need to get caught up with my mail anyway. So I'm going to tell it, go ahead and download, and it's going to download 5 messages at a time. This is Winlink, folks. This is exactly what it's good for. Moving electronic information perfectly, accurately, no matter what the conditions are. And I geeked out on this about 15 years ago at the Kirkland City Hall when another hand showed me how to do this. And I haven't gotten over the thrill of it. I still think this is an amazing gadget, a very useful tool. And it lets me put 2 of my worlds together, the computer support and radio. And it turns out that this is a good thing to learn how to do, because a lot of folks need us to be good at this because it does things that you can't easily do with a voice message. Because it's email, both the sender and recipient each have an exact copy, dated and time-stamped, great for record keeping. Organizations like that sort of thing. Everything is documented. I think I need to check my mail more often. Somebody sent me something from March 10th, 2022. I think he put the date in wrong. That can't be.
Well, Bill, I sent a welcome to the group to you. I also sent a picture, but you may not want to download that for the demo. It's going to be a little bit large. It's like 40K.
Okay, well, I can actually tell it to skip all of these messages and jump to yours if you wish. You think the photo is about 40K?
Yep.
Yeah, that could take a little while over HF. So normally what I would probably do then is wait until I connect my computer to a much faster connection, or just use Telnet if I know a large one. That's assuming, of course, that I've got internet available. Right now I do, but in times of emergency, I may not have any internet connection available. And somebody asked me in the chat what the pattern was telling me. I do not have any idea. Much more important to me is the data at the bottom of the screen is showing how many bytes per second are coming through. Only 175, 82. And you'll see this box keep changing. So basically, it's constantly checking the quality of the signal and getting the best possible speed it can. What's amazing is that up until the creation of VARA, to get really good data across HF frequencies, you need what's called a Pactor modem. They're $1,300 to $1,500. We've got one here at the Red Cross, but VARA HF made it so that an inexpensive sound device can do almost as well, especially if the conditions are good. Pactor modems are good when the conditions aren't that great. But it really opened up digital HF to a lot of people that don't want to necessarily put out $1,500 for a modem. Many HF radios have sound cards built in, so you don't even need to buy a sound card. You plug a USB cable directly between your radio and your computer. The presentation today was not really about HF. VHF, UHF radios don't have sound cards in them, but many of the newer HF radios do. And again, I wanted to kind of show you Winlink in its poorest form, I guess you'd say, with when I'm got no other way to connect, pretending that Seattle is completely cut off from the outside world. They got a generator here at the Red Cross. So if I had to, I could come into this building and get message traffic out of the area to places that do have internet and get messages back from people. And they don't even have to be hams. Anybody with an email address. So this is an amazingly useful tool. There's a little bit of echo. I don't know where that's coming from. But the gentleman that invented VARA, one guy named Jose, I think he's in Spain, EA5HVK. And he created VARA out of what's called military grade data compression. And this is his invention. And he's changed digital communications for tens of thousands of hands all over the world with his invention. And a lifetime license to VARA is $69. And I hope he's a millionaire because he is amazingly talented, and he constantly updates it and improves it. And the one license is for both the FM version and the HF version. You don't have to buy it twice. It's attached to your call sign, so you can put it on whatever computers and radios you want to use it with. It's a one-time license. So I think he's very generous. Well, it's probably going to be going on for a little while. I'm going to turn down the volume. And unless somebody wants to continue watching all the information going by, I will stop sharing.
Bill, can you show the messages?
Absolutely. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, there we go. All the messages that are bold are messages I haven't read yet. So here's one from my friend Ron, N4RDZ. I'm way behind on my mail. He sent that on the 12th, so I'm going to reply. Thanks. Sorry for delay, Ron. I'm behind on checking my normal Winlink mailbox. Bill. So I'm going to post it. It won't get sent this run, but it'll be in the outbox for the next time I connect. Let's see what else we got. Somebody checking in. Yep. Let this guy know we'll probably back up in April. We should be doing at least one Winlink Thursday in late April. Bill and 6 MBN. So I need to get on my email more often. That's clear. KK7PW, that's Jonathan over in West Seattle. So just like in any other email program, you got to have good email manners. Oh, I know this guy. Matthew, Newham. Any success on Saturday? Let me know if you want a visit from me to get your station going. Very sharp radio guy from the commercial world, but he's new to amateur radio.